Hi there, I'm Rex King. So I'm behind on my videos right now, so I'm going to do these two movies back to back in the same video. Normally I would like to give both these movies their just desserts, as they're both really interesting to talk about, but I don't have time in my current schedule. So I'm going to talk about a movie that's currently in theaters and a movie that was sent straight to streaming. So without further ado, let's start off with Oppenheimer. Oh dear God, Oppenheimer. So for those of you who, for some odd reason, don't know this, Oppenheimer was the man behind the Manhattan Project. He basically came up with the atomic bomb. He's responsible for making one of the most destructive weapons in human history. And this film follows his life before the atomic bomb, during the making of the atomic bomb, and after the atomic bomb. And it's a great film, start to finish. It's an absolute masterpiece as it delves into the mind of Oppenheimer and just explores what type of man who he was and exactly what made him and drove him to make such a destructive force, and basically how he viewed the world, how he saw things, how he thought he was just a scientist, but he kept being forced into these roles of politics and military, and he just wasn't that type of person. He always wanted to be a scientist first. So you feel for the guy for the entirety of the movie. And once the bomb finally drops, you really get a taste of what his brain went through, realizing the destructive force he just unleashed. I really enjoyed this movie, especially Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer. I believe his performance is out of this world, and I can't picture any other actor playing this character and this person. He manages to capture everything that made Oppenheimer such an interesting individual, and his look, the way he talks, everything about him is perfect. Robert Downey Jr. also has a minor role in this film, and he's really well done in this film as well. I think he's probably at his best performance since he left the Marvel Universe. That's not saying a ton, to be fair. And I gotta say, I'm glad that Robert Downey Jr. is still doing good movies, despite that he really doesn't have to, considering how much money he made during the Marvel Universe days. The visuals, Nolan's great at visuals, and the music score is also really good. I could try to explain every reason why this movie is a masterpiece, and there are videos who are no doubt already broken down this film piece by piece, so I'm not going to bore you with the details. But needless to say, Oppenheimer is a movie that if you haven't seen, and you love cinema, and you want to see a movie that makes you not only think, but feel and understand everything that this person went through in one of the most crucial moments in history, you've got to see Oppenheimer. I'm going to give this film a 9 out of 10. I'm making these reviews a little bit shorter, so the video isn't like 15 minutes long. With that out of the way, let's move on to the straight-to-streaming movie, They Cloned Tyrone. They Cloned Tyrone is a Netflix movie directed by Jewel Taylor. It stars Joan Boyega, Tiana Paris, I apologize if I mispronounced both those names, and Jamie Foxx as this trio who discover that there is some really weird conspiracy stuff going on in their neighborhood, and they're trying to bring it to light and make people realize that what's going on. Now, this film, though not as dynamic as Oppenheimer, is also really freaking good, as it's a social commentary, and you can tell they're really drawing from like the stories of American experimentation on black communities during like the 1960s, when that stuff was more than likely going on. And you can tell that they're trying to emulate that and trying to kind of show how we view like those types of neighborhoods and how it kind of feels like they're all kind of trapped there almost by design. And I kind of like that. I'm being super vague on the plot here because I don't know how much I can really give away in this particular movie that won't spoil it, because the entire movie is an investigative movie with these three characters: a drug dealer, a pimp, and a prostitute, teaming up to really figure out what's going on in their neighborhood. And it's really fascinating to see these three characters who have nothing in common, who really don't like each other that much, have to work together to kind of save their falling neighborhood and really try to bring to light what is going on that's causing all the problems. And I really like that. At the end of the day, They Clone Tyrone has a lot of interesting beats that I really can't touch upon. The acting is fantastic. All three of our main cast are spectacular. Jamie Foxx blows it out of the park. John Boyega is surprisingly brilliant as our lead character. He starts off kind of wooden almost, but then as you get to know the character, you really latch onto his performance emotionally and understand. And I really felt like John Boyega's performance is kind of what made the movie. Visually, the film feels really retro, and I kind of like that. It feels really neat. It blends really well with the mix of music that they got. Mix of R&B and hip-hop. It kind of feels like a movie that was made in the 1970s. And it really is kind of cool in the way it looks and feels. My only minor nitpick is towards the end, things start to happen really fast and they don't make a whole lot of sense if you start to really think about them. But at the end of the day, the film is really good and really enjoyable. I really recommend that film, They Clone Tyrone, to anyone who really is looking for a new investigated movie that hasn't really done this type of film before. It really is spot on. So I'm going to give They Clone Tyrone an 8 out of 10. Guys, I loved this film weekend. Barbie was really good, Oppenheimer was a masterpiece, and They Clone Tyrone was going to be the most underrated movie of the weekend. I really enjoyed this weekend. I cannot wait to see what future installments we have after we get through Haunted Mansion next week. I have no hope for that. Anyway, I'll see you next time.